Hello everyone, this is Aaron, and I am doing a video today explaining some DOT regulations that truckers have to follow. First of all, I work for a transportation regulatory compliance company, and I used to work in our driver log audit department, and I now drive in our driver qualifications department. You can tell I'm wearing a Simmons t-shirt today. Anyway, well, we just had, back in June, we had a deadly crash that ended up killing 5 people on I-20. And the main trucking company that was involved, Hope Trans, has been found to have engaged in numerous safety violations, including allowing their drivers to drive over the allotted time, and also falsifying logbooks, and even falsifying registration on a truck. That is not something I deal with in DEO. I think that would probably be something that they deal with in licensing and permitting. Anyway. Truckers are not allowed, well, the FMC, you have the DOT, the DOT is obviously over the trucking industry and over the transportation industry, but the FMCSA doesn't just cover trucking companies. It also covers, the DOT also covers electrical line workers and tree trimming companies. It can also cover electrical line companies that have electrical line workers, and tree trimming companies in other areas. T-Mobile has people who drive for them. So does AT&T. They would fall under certain DOT regulations, even though the vast majority of those drivers do not have a commercial driver's license. T-Mobile just happens to be one of my clients. We do not have AT&T as a client, but we do have T-Mobile. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a lot of details of what we know and some of the things that we have. Anyway, just so y'all know, this is my, I'm about to say, this is my right hand. What I'm looking at is reverse of what you're seeing. So, anyway, truckers are not allowed. Typically, it's anywhere. The most that a trucker, without an exemption, can drive is 12 hours in a day. And what Hope Trans has been found to have been doing is allowing truckers, and even pushing truckers, to go past that time limit, to go past their driving time limit, and allowing them to drive longer than the allotted time, which is anywhere from 11 to 12 hours. It depends on the company. Most companies are 11 hours, but I've seen some that allow 12. 11 is the norm. This is obvious. You don't want a tired driver on the road, and then they have to take a certain amount of rest period. They have to take a certain amount of time off and rest in order to get back, and then be able to get back on the road. So they have to take a certain amount of time off and rest, and then get back on the road. You don't want tired drivers on the road. And the driver who was involved in this crash, Alexis Osmani Gonzalez Campiani, when he allegedly told police that he fell asleep at the wheel. You don't want that happening. So that's why they have this rule in place, so that they can't drive more than 12 hours in a day, and they have to take a break for at least 8 to 10 hours after that. They can't get back on the road for at least 8 to 10 hours after that. And that's to allow for, obviously, proper sleep. Anyway, shift. A driver cannot have more than 14 hours in a shift. And here's another thing. For every 8 hours in a shift, they have to take a 30-minute break. If a driver has more than 14 hours in a shift, it's a shift violation. And if they don't take a 30-minute break every 8 hours, it is a rest violation. I have seen numerous of these. 2 15-minute breaks every 8 hours will not cut it. It has to be at least 30 consecutive minutes of time off, whether it's in the rest compartment or just simply off duty, like going to get something to eat, like going into a restaurant and getting something to eat. Most trucking companies have a speed limit of 65 miles per hour. I have seen some that have speed limits up to 60. I've seen some that have speed limits higher than that. I think the highest that I've seen is 70. And I can go into our DLA, because I still have access to DLA, to the DLA system, I can go in there, check the companies, and see what their speed limits are. I can do that. I know what I can find that out. So that's how I know what the average speed limit is. So average speed limit for most companies is 65. So let's say a driver goes 651 miles in 10 hours. That's a speeding violation. That becomes a speeding violation. So the speed limit is an average speed limit. It's an average speed limit. Anyway, another thing. Truckers are to be medically certified, or anyone who works for one of the, or anyone who drives a vehicle that had for a company that's US DOT regulated and has a CDL and that is working for a company that's driving a truck or a work vehicle for a DOT regulated company has to be medically certified. The physical exam certificates have a 2-year limit. On an MVR for a driver who has for someone who has a CDL, it's going to show the medical, or in most states, it's going to show the medical certification status, depending on what it is. Now, state MVRs will, but we work a lot of third-party MVRs, and sometimes especially if it's supervision. For New York, they oftentimes won't show it for New York, oftentimes they won't show it for Utah is another one that they oftentimes won't show for. In Arkansas and Maryland, they oftentimes will not show the medical certification for those states. They oftentimes won't. And with Arizona, this is with most of our Arizona MVRs, they will only show if they're certified or not certified. That's it. So they won't show when the physical exam, when the date of this physical exam certificate was in the expiration date. They won't show that. Most states do. This is obvious why truckers should be medically, why he wants someone who's medically certified to drive. Anyway, next thing, drug testing. Truckers are supposed to undergo drug testing every now and then for obvious reasons. You don't want someone who is either high on drugs or drunk on the roads, obviously. So what we do, and I rarely work these days. I rarely work drug tests. I rarely do drug test results. Rarely do drug test results. The only time I'm doing drug test results is if I'm helping out my other coworkers. That's the only time. None of my clients are trucking companies. So, they're drug tested every now and again. And if a driver tests positive, we go into our DQ website and we send out the email for that particular drug test. Even if they don't test positive, we do that. Just to let the client know, hey, this person passed the drug test. Or this person passed the alcohol test, whatever. So that's what we do. So this is meant to keep people safe on the roads. Every now and again, we will see someone who has failed a drug test, but that is very, very rare. On our form, and for response from previous employers, also otherwise known as a RIPES response, or a verification of employment, there is a spot that says, did this person test positive for alcohol? Did this person test positive for drugs? Did this person refuse to do a test for drugs and alcohol? If a person refused to do a test, it's automatically counted as a positive result. So, or they have to redo it. Anyway, next part. I'm trying to remember what I haven't talked about. Oh, yeah. Also, most companies are, if they're interstate companies, are Federal 78 or Federal 67. That means that your driver cannot drive more than 70 hours in 8 days or 60 hours in 7 days. The norm is 70 and 8. That is the norm, is 70 and 8. Every now and again, you'll find one that's 60 and 7, but 70 and 8 is the norm. If not, if they drive more than their allotted hours, it is a multi-day violation. Seen many of these. Seen a lot of these. And actually what we could do is we could actually, when I was in DLA, we could actually go into the logs, look at what logs we had keyed, and we could see where the violations were. We could see where the violations were. Because the violations would be shaded. So we could see where the violation, where the particular driving violations, whether it was driving violation, which is going over 11, 12 hours in a day, shift violation, speeding violation, multi-day violation, rest violation. And then another thing that they're supposed to do, another thing that these companies are supposed to do, is they're supposed to provide shipping documents. So they're supposed to make sure they have accurate shipping records. And apparently what was going on with Hope Trans is they were falsifying shipping records as well. And also falsifying logbooks. So there are a whole lot of issues right now that this company is being heavily looked at by TxDOT and USDOT. TxDOT is Texas Department of Transportation, by the way. So this company is being looked at very strongly for safety violations. There was one driver who was being interviewed by WFAA out of Dallas, which is the ABC affiliate up in the Metroplex, and he was claiming that he was being forced to drive more than the allowed drive time. So this company's probably going to be heavily fined by the DOT. Probably heavily fined. They're probably going to get hit with thousands upon thousands of dollars in fines. I mean, just through this audit. I mean, they're probably just going to get hit with thousands upon thousands of dollars in fines. And the fines may end up bankrupting the company. So, I mean, considering their history of safety violations, they need to be taken off the road. This company needs to be sued out of existence and taken off the road. And so, there are some regulations that I'm not aware of, like the registration part, like registration and stuff like that, licensing, permitting. I'm not familiar with that because I've never done licensing and permitting, so I am not familiar with that. So I'm just giving what I know. Anyway. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else that I wanted to talk about that I forgot about, and I don't think I have. Anyway, that is just an overview of some of the regulations that companies have. So hopefully you understand a little bit more. Next time you see a big rig, you'll have more of an understanding of what the regulations are and why they are in place. These regulations are in place to keep everyone safe on the roads, including the truckers. They're designed to keep us safe, and they're designed to keep the truckers safe. So, anyway, that is the end of this video. And I will do another video explaining some of the issues in the trucking industry, some of which are obvious.